Temre, how are you? No, it doesn't look like you're muted, but I still can't hear you. Are you there?
Will work.
Oh, that's working. Okay, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
I don't hear you though.
You can hear me okay? It's not that great?
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Evelyn, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Welcome. So it's so good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
So
Thanks
just one second here. Okay, sorry. Got people trying to join and not able to. That's curious. Excuse me, just one second, guys. All right, let's see if that changes anything. So Evelyn, which program, remind me, which program are you in?
I'm in liberal arts.
Yeah, at Concordia?
Yeah, at Concordia. Yeah.
Very cool. So how are you finding it? What year are you now?
I just finished my first year, but I like it. I did liberal arts in CEGEP as well, so it's not anything I'm unaccustomed to. But I really like it.
Where'd you do liberal arts in CEGEP?
Vanier.
At Vanier. Okay, well, it's Timothy Budd who's trying to join right now. So.
Oh, okay. He's my
Very
professor
cool.
a couple times.
Yes, excellent. Okay, let's see. Let's hide myself. I do not like looking at myself on Zoom. All right, here we go. No, it's worse than a mirror. All you do is stare at yourself talking, and they're like, why am I looking at it? Like my mouth, the right side of my mouth is moving more than the. It's just pointless. It's truly pointless.
Maybe it's because you're it's mirrored.
Yes, there's that too. And the
You
reason
can change that.
Yes, I know you can, but the reason I do it is so that if I hold up something to read, like my osteopath's business card, for example, then it's visible to you guys, because sometimes I'll write out notes. So I wanted that to be possible. But thank you. I do appreciate the tip. There are a lot of professors out there who have not studied Zoom. So I am glad you are there to support them. They need it. Megan, how are you today? Oh, wow. You look so like you just go to the beach or something. You look so sunny and summery.
Oh, right. I just saw myself in the camera and I'm like, Jesus, I look so dark. No, it's because we've just been doing so much work in the backyard and like I'm wearing sunscreen. It's just that we've been spending so much time outside and it's been so sunny that like I look like I just came back from vacation.
Nice. Well, it's great. I feel like I just came back on vacation just looking at you. That's fantastic. Jessica, are you there? Jessica, can you just unmute long enough to say hello?
It wasn't working.
Yeah, no, totally cool. It's all good. Just wanted to know that you're there and say hello.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you? Tiffany, how are you?
Hello, Jonathan. I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty good today. Everyone looks so summery. This is fantastic. It's such a different look. I'm used to looking at students during the winter, and we're all in our sort of winter clothes and a little bit accablé by the darkness. This is so much nicer. So I'm going to give a few more minutes to people to come in. We have 15 people registered, so I do expect some attrition. There always is some. Last time we had more than half of the people who registered showed up though, so I'm going to assume that that's going to be the case here, but I won't wait too long because I know you guys have stuff to do on this beautiful afternoon. Megan's going to get back to your yard work. Yes. Excellent. Okay. So while we wait, I have, Megan and Chema are not going to be surprised. I have an icebreaker. So let me pull it up. Okay. So it would help me. Don't type it in yet, but think for a second about your relationship with LinkedIn, even if they don't have a relationship with LinkedIn, and give me one or two words or a phrase that describes it. Type it into the chat, but don't hit enter. So don't share it quite yet. We'll do it all at once, so nobody has to sort of see anybody else's stuff until it's all out there in the open. And honesty is what we're looking for here. So terrified is perfectly reasonable. Eager, curious, confused, all of these things are completely normal, totally okay. All right, let's see if Timothy is. Okay, so Georgia and Timothy don't have the Zoom link. So just 1 second, everybody. Naturally, they don't have it.
It is actually quite hard to find.
I know it is. I did my best.
I spent like 4 minutes going through pages. I'm like, where is the Zoom link? And then I saw it said it was with your confirmation email, and then I was able to find it, but took like a couple minutes to find it.
Okay, so I am going to drop this link in to, we will be patient with everybody, into an email. And then I will grab Timothy's email address and George's email address. Timothy. Okay. And my friend Alexandre is trying to get in. Thank you everyone for your patience. I do appreciate it. Georgia found it. Okay. We're gonna have to go with that. So Georgia, hello Georgia, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late. I don't know how computers work. It just took me a minute. This helps. I made it.
That's how we all felt. We all woke up one day and realized that our entire lives are being transferred online and that we only knew like this much about how that was going to go.
No, yeah.
All right, Timothy, hello. Good to see you. Let's see if anybody else is. Okay, so Timothy is good. All right, so I just sent it to Alexandra. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if people join us, that would be fantastic. And if not, that's good. So we're going to do a quick check-in. So this is just human being to human being. So just a very brief, how are you doing today? So I'm just going to call on people in the order that they appear on my screen. So Chemre, how are you doing today?
Good. Not quite used to the heat yet, but good.
Excellent. Evelyn, how are you feeling today?
Pretty good. Enjoying the heat, being able to wear summer clothes.
Awesome. I love that. Megan, how are you today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day, so I can't complain really.
Seriously, right? Hard to complain. Tiffany, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. I'm not used to the heat at all. I'm like, no. So it should pass. I should adapt to the weather.
Excellent. Good to hear. Georgia, how are you today?
I'm good. Likewise, I feel like my brain's melted, but I'm going to go play in the park with my roommate after, so I'm excited.
Excellent. Timothy, how are you doing today?
I'm going to complain. I hate the heat.
Oh, here we go. It's starting. All the Canadians and their hatred of the heat.
I hate it less than the cold.
Awesome. So only the shoulder seasons are working for you. Okay. Jessica, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Yeah, I was trying to do work before outside, but it got way too hot, so I had to come in. But it's nice. I do enjoy it.
That's a little ambivalent though. Enjoying it, but you know. Excellent. So Nicholas, welcome. We're just doing a quick human being to human being check-in, and I'm just asking everybody how they're doing. Most of us are sort of mostly liking the heat. There's a little bit of ambivalence in the room about it though. So just how are you doing today?
Not bad. The heat is kind of weighing down on me too, but I'm kind of taking it easy, so it's not so bad.
Excellent. That's nice. Nice to hear that you're able to take it easy. That's awesome. So I grew up in the United States, so south of the border. So for me, this feels like spring. This is so nice for me. I'm still waiting for it to get up to like 35 or 36 one day in Montreal. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but that's what summer feels like to me. So I am totally enjoying this. So I have an icebreaker for us today, just to kind of get the ball rolling, and I'd like to see where people are. So I've asked everybody to take a moment and think about LinkedIn and type, without hitting enter, type into the chat, but don't hit enter, a word, a phrase, something that describes how you feel about LinkedIn, what your relationship is with it. Does it confuse you, intimidate you, entice you? What's the feeling that people have? Editorials are welcome, by the way. The last time we did this, we had some pretty funny reactions, actually. Okay. So looks like Nicholas is still typing. Everybody else ready? Georgia, you about ready? Okay. So give me the thumbs up if you're about ready. We can wait a few more seconds, Nicholas. Okay, so Nicholas needs just a few more seconds here. Okay, so Nicholas, just give me the thumbs up. All right, everybody go ahead and hit enter. Okay. Ah, yes, the anxiety, definitely. And Tiffany, I'm totally with you there. Inconsistent, Chemre, that's an interesting reaction. It's like you got ups and downs. We break up, and we make up. We're totally a pop song there. Fear, excitement, yes, yes. Why do I need you, LinkedIn? A very good question. Why do you need LinkedIn? Excellent, excellent. Very good. Okay, Nino, welcome. Nino, I'm just checking in. If you could just unmute for a second, just to let us know that you're there, we would really appreciate it. Just want to know that you're with us. Oh, okay, so you're good. Maybe just a little bit trouble with your Wi-Fi. Okay. So we're going to begin with, okay, no problem, Nina, all cool. If you could just type into the chat approximately how you're feeling about LinkedIn, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm just trying to get a sense of people's kind of where they are with LinkedIn right at the moment so that I can pitch things a little bit. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. I have this is not mostly a slide deck presentation, but I have a few here. And they will help guide us for at least a little bit here. I'm going to try to finish the entire presentation part of this and the workshop part of it within about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. The remainder of the time, up to an hour, will be just Q&A. I will stay after that. So those of you, I will have a kind of a firm dismissal. We'll stop recording at an hour. But if you want to stay and chat and talk longer, ask more questions, I'd be happy to answer it. Answer any questions, respond to concerns. I'm a total LinkedIn nerd. I really enjoy the site. I like networking, even though I was painfully introverted as a child. But as for a reason, why do I need you, Timothy? I'm looking at you as I put this slide up. Here, I think, is the reality of why we need LinkedIn, which is that 70% of job opportunities aren't posted. So if you're only applying to jobs that you see, you're not actually aware of most of the jobs that are out there. And the only way to get access to those jobs is through networking. And with everything thrust online with the pandemic, sorry, excuse me, everyone, I got a couple more people coming in. I'm going to admit them. Everyone else, I guess they had trouble finding the link as well. LinkedIn has become more important than ever. I was a pretty strong networker before this, and I just had to move everything onto LinkedIn as the pandemic arrived. Hi, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm well, Professor Powers. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We're doing all right. So thank you for joining us. I apologize if the link was a little bit difficult to find.
Jessica saved the day. She posted the link to an LAC Facebook group. So
Jessica, you totally rock. I'm so glad that you're here with us. Let's see here. Nina's kind of here. Alexandre, est-ce que tu es là?
Oui.
Mais merci d'être venu. On est très content que tu es présente avec nous aujourd'hui. On va continuer en anglais, mais si jamais tu veux poser une question en français, tu es absolument le bienvenu.
Parfait, merci.
Okay. Oh, Jessica, you're totally saving the day. Everybody was stuck checking for this link. Hi, Nina. Good to see you. Yeah, it's up to you if you want to. It's up to you how you handle the audio and visual. We're just glad that you're with us. Valentina, are you there? Just kind of want to say hello.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. So tech support queen. So those of you who haven't yet, I'm going to ask you to put in the chat just sort of a preliminary reaction about LinkedIn. How do you feel about it? How does LinkedIn make you nervous? Does it make you excited? So now we're going to begin once you're done with that, I'm going to ask everybody, this is next. We did this. I want you guys to take a few minutes and I want you to think of your dream job and take out a piece of pen and paper, take out the notepad application on your computer. And all we're looking for here is the title, the company name, and fictional is fine. You can make, I mean, like seriously, go full out, make this stuff up. What's important is that you think it's cool. And an easy way to start if you're not sure is what's something that you love to do that you'd love to get paid to do? My dream job is reading. I would love people to I also want to pay me to read genre fiction. If I could get that job, I would take it in a heartbeat. And honestly, that job did exist when Amazon first started, by the way, just so that everybody knows. That was a real job for a couple of years. They had one person whose entire job was just posting reviews on Amazon, just to begin populating it. So take a minute, think about it. Be creative and free. This is not meant, there's no gotcha here. This is just meant to get you started thinking about the kinds of things that you're interested in, the world of work as a place where things that you like to do happen. So some of the people that I've had as students before, I kind of know some of your goals, some of your things that you are keen about. And that is totally fine if you want to go with that. So Megan, if you're still thinking about your cushy office in the academy, that would be awesome. I think that's a fantastic dream. That was my dream too at a certain point. Okay, so I'd like you to hold up your hand if you'd like 30 more seconds. I'm kind of scrolling here. And you guys can just give me, so Timothy wants a few. Timothy and I have both agreed we do not know what we want to be when we grow up, just so that everybody knows. Alexandre, j'imagine que c'est pareil pour toi. We think that grown-ups have it all figured out until we become grown-ups, and then we realize nobody has it all figured out. All right, Timothy, are you about ready? Okay. So the next step, I'd like everyone to take that job. That was, right? So that's the city of Oz, right? That's where we're all going. That's the magical place in the distance that we can't see it. We just kind of have this idea that it's there. People have told us about it. I want you to imagine a job, and I'm going to use the word realistic, but please don't take this too literally. A job that's in that direction that you think you could get. So if you want to be a video game designer, maybe something that you could get is like administrative assistant, which is actually where the level that I would have to enter in because I know nothing about programming at Ubisoft. So if I really wanted my next job to be like closer to video games, that's where I'm kind of headed.
So like maybe a 10% job rather than a 1% job.
Yeah, look, and you can be, look, the point here is to sort of to have the ambition be the sort of the North Star, right? Setting the direction, and this job just being on the path. It can be ambitious, but attainable, and do the same thing. And again, make up the company name. It can totally be, awesome video games incorporated. You know, like it doesn't have to, we're not looking for realism in the strict sense. What I'm trying to do is to get you guys to think exactly what Daniel was saying, is to think about it. That thing out there is at 100%. I'm looking for something in that direction, but at a lower percentage. And don't try too hard to get it exactly right. The truth is that most of us don't actually know what jobs are in between us and our dream. They're actually way more than you think there are, because the world is a lot bigger than we know that it is, you know, than our awareness of it. Megan, are you thinking? Are you good? Oh, you good. She's like, she's got it. Evelyn, you're still typing. It looks like Valentina is typing and thinking. Tiffany, typing? Is that typing? No, you're good. Nina's writing. Georgia, writing? Still there? Yeah, still, yeah, it's okay. This is part of the harder part, right? All right, so hold up your hand if you want 30 more seconds. I'm going to scroll through. If you're done, you just sort of stare into the camera with a vaguely bored and annoyed look, and I'll know that you're done and waiting for me to move on to the next thing. Oh, you guys are good at that. It's a little scary. All right. This is the secret, or one of the secrets of LinkedIn. Most people use LinkedIn or think that LinkedIn is about achievements. This is fine for certain kinds of jobs, like being a consultant where you get hired for how awesome you've done stuff in the past. But for most of us, what LinkedIn is useful for is to tell a story. And what you're telling is your story about where you've been and where you're going. And you guys have heard that you have to tailor your resume or tailor your cover letter to a job. You've heard that, right? The way you do it is narratively. You're telling a story. I'm going to show you some examples of profiles from my own network, and I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Okay, but everyone has this down. You've got this written down. We're going to talk about narrative and story here. So I'm going to exit the screen share here. And I'm going to screen share my browser. Okay, and stop that. So I'm going to start with my profile. And I just want you to look at the pictures. So we're only going to look at a few parts of what a profile on LinkedIn is. I'm not going to bombard you with the whole thing. Can you guys see? I can blow this up a little bit. Evelyn's putting on her glasses, so maybe your screens are small. All right, hold up your hand if you can't see it. Yeah, thumbs up is good. I know that that's good. Okay, what do you see in the background of my picture? All right, this man is a nerd. It is obvious from his background, and this is exactly the story that I want to tell. I am choosing this picture not because I'm wearing a coat and yes, I'm wearing a coat. I'm choosing it because it has books in the background. You don't have to. It doesn't really matter if you have books in the background, but this is why I chose it. And then you see a lot of people have, as an example, my friend Christine here, who we're going to look at in a second. You see her background photo is this kind of nice. There's nothing wrong with this at all. It suggests that she's a nature lover, da, da, da. Choose that photo intentionally, though. I took about 15 minutes on Canva. Actually, the writing took a little bit more, but 15 minutes on Canva to put together mine, to actually start telling a little bit of a story about who I am, right? This says this guy is a teacher, right? It's obvious. It's written all over the profile. Does this make sense? So let me break for a moment and ask for questions on just this. Everybody knows that you need a photograph when you do a social media profile. Otherwise, it's like, you guys have seen creepy Facebook profiles with no photos. Same principle in LinkedIn. It's creepy to not have a photo. Any questions? Okay, so that is the photos. Now the next part is called, I believe they call it the header. this part here right below your name. So a lot of people put their position. My friend Christine does something very different. I want you to look at it. Can everyone read this? Give me a thumbs up if you can read this okay. Thumbs up. Anyone need it to be bigger? I can make it a little bigger. Daniel, can you read it? It's good. Okay. This has nothing to do with her work. You know, kind of into education, branding, and using scientific thinking to grow ideas and build community. That's kind of vague. Trying to keep LinkedIn authentic. That's interesting. It says a lot about what kind of connection she wants to make on the, and then always happy to connect. Just let me know. Okay, give me the context so I remember you. Once again, she's telling a story, this time not about herself and her career path, but about the kind of connection that she wants to make. Does this, I mean, this to me feels like a real human voice. Like it just comes right through. And she's kind of sharp and really bright and slightly abrasive. That's exactly who she is. No bullshit. Any questions about this? Okay. The next we're going to look at, sorry about these things. This is my friend Stefan, and I want you to look at the about section. Now, this about section, a lot of consultants, and consultants are usually very active on LinkedIn. They're like the most active people because they're constantly searching for business, which makes sense. They'll talk about all their achievements and all the amazing Fortune 500 company. And let me tell you right now, if they ordered coffee for a Fortune 500 company, now they've worked for a Fortune 500 company. So don't be too intimidated when you see that sort of thing. People will put it up there just to say it. Now, I want you to look at what Stephen writes. And I want you to, again, think about voice and story. Is there anybody here who can't read it? I'd be happy to read it out loud. Now, Stefan runs an amazing nonprofit, not a nonprofit, but an amazing company that does enrichment education. He's run a successful Kickstarter for his educational organization. He's an astonishing teacher and an incredible leader. This doesn't say anything about that. There's no bragging in this. There's just this incredible statement of what of his teaching philosophy, which just makes you want to take a class with him, right? And then finally, let's look at one last piece here. When you do, very few people, by the way, are going to get this deep into your profile. Most people aren't going to get any deeper than the header. The about section, all right, fine, you did that. For your experience, don't put a lot of text here. Nobody is going to read it. So everybody's taking note of that. You can't tell your story with bullet points in a resume very effectively. But I want you to look at what Megan. So Megan was raised in Saskatchewan. She went to school there, moved to Montreal. And I want you to look at this particular, so she had a Jean Sauvé Public Leadership Fellow. That's fairly impressive. She's an impressive person, to be completely honest. What the hell is this aide à domicile? Why did she put that in? Why is that? She doesn't have to, right? You don't have to include every experience. And I want you to look at that first line, improved French language skills through paid employment. She's telling everybody who looks at this profile how serious she is about being in Montreal. This is how she moved to France to learn her French in order to be in Montreal. She's telling a story about her commitment to bilingualism with that. So when you look at this through the lens of story, it all makes sense. It makes sense why she would include that, as opposed to the lens of trying to impress everybody with my achievements, because this is not a very impressive, sort of work item. But to any Montrealer, any Quebecer, this is a very impressive demonstration of commitment. Okay. So let's pause here for a moment. Are there any questions about this? Any questions about using story? I'm going to go to the next piece in just a second, and there are only 2 pieces, so there's not too much more to cover. No, you guys are good. So give me the thumbs up if you feel pretty good with how things have gone so far. Daniel, yeah, jump in.
I mean, it seems to me that to take Christine's profile as a counterpoint, it seems like your profile is slightly different from hers, is that in that you're more specific and hers is more abstract, and these are 2 distinct styles of a LinkedIn profile.
Yep.
And that's the core lesson there.
The core lesson is that we're each using it to tell a story, and in particular, what I'm driving toward is the point that you're going to use the tell a story to attract the kind of people that you want to talk to.
And the story can be narrow or broad.
Yep. So if you make it broad, you're inviting lots of people to reach out to you, to connect to you. And if you make it narrow, you're saying, hey, only if you fit this particular thing do I want to talk to you. And let me tell you now, so who here would call themselves an introvert? So my hand is definitely up. Okay, this is the greatest tool ever for networking for introverts. My wife, who used to work in corporate sales, tells stories about a fan of business cards, a room of 500 people. You just walk from table to table, interrupt the conversation, lay the business cards down. And like, I cannot imagine myself doing this. It's just impossible. No way. This sounds like hell. LinkedIn, imagine a tool, if you will, that allows you to look at everybody's, at the click of a button, you can look at everybody's inclinations, preferences, what they like, what they've done with work, where they think they're going. You can choose exactly who to reach out and how you reach out to them, and have a one-on-one interaction with only the people that you think are cool. That sounds like the kind of networking that I would want to do. So if you imagine for a second, I want you to think of 1 or 2 of the coolest people that you know. Everyone got a name? I'm actually thinking of Stefan right now, and Christine and Megan. Like, those are some of the coolest people I know. And I met Megan on LinkedIn, Christine on LinkedIn too. All right. Just by sheer mathematics, there are thousands more people like that on the earth. And many of them are on LinkedIn. And what you're trying to do is to draw closer to them through your network and finally connect with them. That's the goal, is to meet people who are that cool, who have that much in common with you, who share a passion for your interests. And that's what you're trying to tell a story that attracts those kinds of people. Does that make sense? And it should sound a lot less intimidating. It's like you don't have to deal with all of the crap of dealing with people who just want to talk. You do not have to answer anything on LinkedIn. All you have to do is look for the people that you think are cool and try to get close. Okay? Now, engagement. So here's the thing. We've done our profile. We've got something that we think is going to say the right thing about us or close to the right thing. You work on it. The next step, and this is as far as we're going to go today. All right, is this. All right, how do you engage? I'm going to show you an example in a second. And I want you, if you haven't written this down, I want you to write this down definitely as something that is this important. It's your kind of people that you're looking for. You're not on LinkedIn to connect to everybody. You're not on there to race to the number. I've met somebody who has the maximum of 30,000 connections. She's actually really cool, but there's no way that she knows 30,000 people. I have no idea why she did that. I guess she's a consultant, so maybe that explains it. But we're not there. Who cares, right? We're not there to sort of get the number of people. What we're there to do is to meet people like, for me, Christine and Megan, who I think are just awesome. Okay, so let me show you how to do this. Once again, I'm going to show you that. No. So I brought Christine's back up because Daniel was talking about it. There are 3 basic ways to connect on LinkedIn or to engage. You can comment, you can like, or applaud, or whatever it is. You can react essentially, or you can share. sharing sucks. It doesn't work. LinkedIn doesn't track it. I don't know why they don't track it, but it's kind of pointless apparently. So it doesn't seem to work. Reacting is fine, but here's the gold. All right. This is a guy, works for a company that I think is really interesting. Minerva is changing the face of higher ed. They're based in San Francisco, super cool company. I got interested in it, wanted to meet some people who were doing something with it. They post something written by one of their people, right? Part of their blog. I go and read it. And then I wrote this. LinkedIn limits you to 1,200 characters or so, thank God, or else I would be like writing way more than I should. I mentioned I'm a nerd, right? This is me showing just how nerdy I am about teaching, about thinking. I did not yet have a connection with him. After this, I did. He offered one. I demonstrated that I was in, remember we talked about telling a story to try to, I read his profile, read this, and demonstrated as best I could that I was within that circle for him. And so he offered the connection. A week later, we had a meeting. I got an informational interview. And guess what? It turns out he's awesome. He likes the things that I like. We think along the same lines in a lot of ways. This was not a random, I didn't just spend a half an hour writing this randomly. I spent a half an hour writing this for somebody who I already knew his background. I already knew that we went to Boston College at the same time. Okay, has everybody read it? So that's kind of it. That's the sort of lesson, the two lessons. Build a profile that tells a story that draws people in, and then engage in a way that shows that connection. Do you guys have questions now? So I'm definitely going to take questions. The last group had a ton. I'd be happy to answer them. Daniel.
Well, this is me kind of thinking out loud in the form of a question, but as a kind of platform comparison, I have a Twitter account, and I follow a lot of people in the literary world on Twitter, and some of them are like elite figures who would not respond to me, but many of them are more mid-level types, people whom you could imagine interacting with if they posted an article you found interesting or said something interesting and you responded and maybe a conversation begins. How is LinkedIn different from Twitter in that regard? How is it more likely that there'll be connections started?
Great question. So 2 points here. First of all, to talk about Facebook and Twitter as the other kind of 2 larger players in this kind of arena. The conversations on those platforms are much more open. And they tend to be driven by the sort of the concern of the moment in whatever sort of world they're talking about. Whereas on LinkedIn, people are there, they're there to professionally network, and they're aware, hello. That was awesome. So they're there to professionally network. So that means that if somebody is on LinkedIn and you see something that they post and respond, and you guys they like your response, right? You begin to get they will almost always, at least like if you send them a message, they usually respond. I've read something that people are like probably LinkedIn who promoted this, 4 or 5 times likelier to respond than an email. And the reason is precisely that they're there for that, and they can see exactly who you are. You're not just some nobody hiding behind a profile, like I've seen, I don't follow the literary world, but a lot of people have these kind of, artsy photographs that are their Twitter avatars. On LinkedIn, people do it as themselves, right? So that's the reason. They can see who you are, what your interest is. And it makes it much more likely that if you're within the circle that they want of people they meet, they will take the connection, or they'll take the what's it called, the interaction.
So in other words, there's greater authenticity built into LinkedIn than Facebook and Twitter.
For the obvious reason that the people are there for that. And so the whole platform only works when there's a relatively high level of transparency and authenticity. If there weren't that, people would leave to find something else where there was. There are a lot of people who have, people put a very high a lot of serious professionals on LinkedIn, they have a very high premium on their time. They're not just going to hang out and be bombarded by, sort of messages from, they're not going to respond to messages from nobody. They're there to respond to messages, to make the connections that they want to make. Other questions? That's a great one. Valentina, please.
I just wanted to know if this recording will be made available somehow.
Yes, so I'm actually not recording this one because I was not able to get it set up, but I recorded the last one. Oh, I am recording it. Okay, so if it works, I hope it works. I'm going to put it up on the Canadian Liberal Arts Association has a LinkedIn, a YouTube profile, and I uploaded the last one there, and I will upload this one as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Yeah, Chemere.
So let's say you get an offer from LinkedIn.
Yep. Sorry, you went mute there.
Oh dear.
So you get an offer from LinkedIn.
Is it what matters is it how quick you respond, or is it what you respond? Like, I'm not sure, because sometimes I haven't gotten responses back, and I don't know.
Well, you and I should talk about like what you're doing and how you're doing it, but it usually means it has nothing to do with you. Some people check LinkedIn every day. Some people check LinkedIn once a week. Some people check it once a month. So you can't assume that it's nothing if it's not, if you have no context for it. If you've asked for a connection, like may I connect to you, and people haven't taken it, that may just be because they don't know you or don't have a context for understanding why you're reaching out. And so it may be easier to start by interacting with them with a message, or by looking at the content that they are putting out and interacting with it. But in general, don't read anything into, I've had people not take a connection with me, and then 6 months later, it was fine, they took it. Who knows why that was? It has everything to do with them and nothing to do with me.
Sorry, I have another, if that's okay.
Yeah, go.
So let's say you do find someone you like on LinkedIn. How do you, if you reach out to them, you can say, hey, but like from them, what do you do? Do you say, oh, I'm interested in this I saw on your LinkedIn, and I do like this, or like, is there a specific way to handle that?
Yes, because they limit you the number of characters that you can use when you write your little note to accompany your connection. So if you ask for a connection, the recipe for this, I'll put it in the chat. That's the recipe. So when you send your invitation to connect, now let's say that you just met somebody, like you did a class together or you did a training together, you just met them, you can literally just LinkedIn right there, right at that moment. You can just switch over to your browser and send it. The important reason for that is because the most important part of that equation is context. When people know what context you're connecting to them in, they understand. Like, so if you took like a writing class with the Quebec Writers Federation, and there was a relatively famous Quebec writer there, or the teacher was a relatively famous Quebec writer, you could just ask them for a connection right away, and they're like, oh, Chemere's in my class. I know who that is. I'll take that connection, right? When you do, though, without sort of, when you need to provide it, you provide the context. I am somebody who is very passionate. Like, I know that you're interested in music, so I'm very passionate about music. I'm very interested in the work that you're doing using music to teach, to help disabled kids in Canada deal with their social stress. I was wondering if I could get 20, 30 minutes of your time to talk about some of the projects that you're interested in, So that's the context. the purpose of I'm asking for, this is why I'm interested, and then the action. I want an informational interview. Right? This you can do in like a few hundred characters. I think you have 300 characters or something like that. You can do this. Does that help?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Okay.
It does.
Daniel.
Yeah, as a comment more than a question, it seems to me, based on your response to the question just now, that there are, like with the appearance of the profiles earlier, there are two different styles you're suggesting with communication. First, diving into the subject of interest, like with the Minerva Projects guy, or introducing yourself the way you would at a corporate function or something. I'm interested in this. I'd like to do that. What do you explain just now? Is that fair?
It is fair, and the reason for it is because this is the invitation to connect. So when you offer to connect to somebody, the equivalent of friending somebody on Facebook, you have the option of sending a little note. And so this is what I recommend writing in the note when you offer to connect to somebody. What I did
it's more specific.
Yeah, well, it's so constrained. It's like 300 characters. You can't just go on and on. What I did with James was a comment on something that he had written. Comments, you get, I think, 1,250 characters. So you can write more like the 2 paragraphs that I did, which is one reason why it's often useful to comment once or twice on somebody's stuff and then they will have seen, and you get more words to sort of indicate your interest, to show, sort of your curiosity about their work. To show that other things that are going on in the world that they are interested in. And to turn the tables here for a second, I want you to imagine that you're somebody who's 45, 50 years old, so really old, like just ancient, like me. Jemre's laughing. But somebody who's sort of mature in a field and has started this organization, they're doing something that you think is amazing. From where that person sits, they're desperate to meet other young people who are passionate the way that they once were about this. They need that. They need to recruit people into their organization and they want to mentor them. They need to meet them. That's why they're on LinkedIn. Right? So from their perspective, you beginning to interact and then reaching out, this is why they're there. Yeah, I'll take 20 minutes to meet, 30 minutes to meet with somebody, for sure. Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, when it comes, a question about, in the same vein about communication. I understand your point about even the elders of LinkedIn wanting to be there for the same reason as the newbies, to connect, the whole point of it. And it's a literary world specific question, I suppose I'm asking, although I appreciate you're an academic. And this might be my distortion of it, but it seems to me literature and just the world of magazines is sort of this weird halfway place between the arts and more conventional professions, in the sense that, with conventional professions, you have a resume. It helps if you've worked at places. It matters if there are gaps. On the other hand, it's like the arts in that at bottom, the most important thing is your writing, the quality of your writing.
Absolutely.
And so to the extent that the quality of your writing, of that core skill, outweighs however much the pure resume side of it, like what then is the etiquette of just sending your stuff cold to people? Like, hi, I'm Daniel, I'm this writer. Here's an essay I wrote about this or that, or here's what I mean, is there a kind of etiquette around that, or should you refrain?
The etiquette, the good question, there's no etiquette that I know of on LinkedIn, but part of the reason is that there's no need for there to be an etiquette. So let me show you what I mean here. So going to share a screen for a moment here, everyone. So again, I'll use my own profile just to show you. So there is an option here where you can do a feature. Basically, you can put up a portfolio. Now, I've used it to put up 2 CVs, my CV in English, my CV in French, so that people have access to the full CV. However, you can use it to post media, articles, anything that you want to showcase that you want people to see when they look at your profile. So if you have a PDF of a text that was published, an essay, something, this is where you can do it. And it'll show 2 of them side. I haven't actually seen more than 2 of them side by side, but you could certainly just put up 2 pieces right there, no problem. So Chemre, who does music, you could put up a video of yourself playing, no problem. And what you're doing there is just inviting people to look at your portfolio. And that's why they have this feature. That is entirely appropriate. And I would tend to leave it on my profile, mainly because, and not send it to people unless they ask, mainly because anybody can click through and look at my profile. If you reach out to somebody, they can say, who is this Daniel guy? Then they click on your profile, click up a button, they can see, and there it is. And then they can read the first paragraph and decide if they want to take it further. And you can do the same. So I'm wondering if there are questions from some of the people who haven't spoken up. So, and it's okay if you don't, but I just want to make sure that we get your voice here. So Evelyn, do you have a kind of a burning question? Maybe even just a light, like a match question, not like a bonfire question, just something that's tickling your curiosity?
I don't know about anything like a burning question. Maybe if I just had a little bit of time to think about it.
Okay, I do appreciate questions though. So if you take a moment and come back with one, I would appreciate having a chance to respond to it so that you get the full value of your time here. Nicholas, what about you? Anything come up for you over the course of this where you sort of feel a little more curious?
Well, I don't know necessarily if this is like a super important question, but it's just a weird thought that popped into my mind just now. What if you have several specific passions that you want to pursue? Would it be wise to create several separate LinkedIns for that, or to craft a single one that sort of tries to figure out how to put them together?
Great question. And the answer is there is no answer to it, except that you should not have more than 1 LinkedIn profile. That will cause people to think that you're very sketchy. It's not the same as it is like with Facebook or Twitter, where you can sort of do multiples for each one, where that would be appropriate. So my answer to that is you need to be at any given moment kind of telling the story about the direction that you're headed at that particular moment. And it sucks for me. Actually, all of us as liberal arts people have, we often have many passions, and it makes it really hard to tell a compelling story with it. It's like, no, I've got a 6-volume, sort of Game of Thrones level complexity story that I want to tell. It's like, that can't be done on LinkedIn in a profile. And it kind of sucks that it can't. I mean, maybe this is a gap in the ecosystem. Somebody's going to come up with the platform to do this. But truly, it's a difficult question. And I've changed my profile several times. Sometimes, because I do have a side of myself that's not academic. And so sometimes I feel like I'm trying to tell that story, and then I switch back to the academic one. And, it's like, there's no good answer to it. But it is okay to represent yourself as having more than one facet. That is totally okay. And actually, I've encouraged you, like, put your volunteer experiences up there in particular, especially if they are about causes that you care about. Like if I'm a programmer, but I have this kind of urban agriculture thing that I've been really interested. Like, these things don't fit together. Somebody out there in the world is running an urban agricultural startup, and they need a programmer. They're looking for you. And if you can show that in your profile that you've got both of those things, then you're one of the people who they're going to be talking to or want to be talking to. So it can be a rich profile. Tell the rich story. Just that header stuff is tough. It's tough to condense it. Jessica, do you have anything? Oh, Evelyn's got one. Oh, sweet. She brewed one.
Yeah. From what you say, what you've been talking about, it sounds great for networking when you have more of a profession or a kind of direction. But what would you suggest for a student like me and other students that are just starting university?
Absolutely, it's a great question. So instead of, you'll notice, I'll put my profile back up here just so you can see. I chose something because I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I mentioned that, right? So you guys probably don't know what you want to be when you grow up. Maybe you do, but maybe you don't. Look at my header. It doesn't say anything about what job I hold. It says these are the areas that I'm interested in. So Nicholas, this was the best that I could do with multiple areas of interest. And it's kind of clunky and awkward, but it also looks kind of interesting too. The best I could do. So Evelyn, this would be my suggestion, is that people sometimes say that you can use the header in LinkedIn to talk about purpose. I think that's hard to do. What I think you should put here are the things that you think are cool. And change it whenever that changes. And don't worry too much about it. If you leave it up here for 6 months and it doesn't change, you're not the last one to do that. That's not a big deal. But just put the stuff up here that you think is cool. And then put, like, again, your experience in here. Don't think of this as the resume. Think of this as telling the story about the people that you want to meet. So I'm sure that you've got wonderful interests, that you sort of have people out there that are doing stuff that you'd love to talk to for half an hour about their amazing project in this field that you think is cool. That's the purpose. So students should have no trouble, sort of finding people who have a shared interest. And then the question is just, how do you get close to them so they can have that conversation? And the job stuff comes out of that, really. It's really it's a second order thing. Does that help at all?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to put up something that says, I'm still searching. I'm just putting up what I'm interested in. You are hardly, I'm doing it. Lots of people do it. So Jessica, I was going to ask you, did you have a question that you were brewing behind your bad Wi-Fi? You sure? Question's already answered? All right, if it comes up, okay. Valentina, anything for you? Do you have like something that you're extra curious about, or something that want a little more encouragement or information on?
I'm okay. I think I got everything that I need to know.
Okay, awesome. Georgia, what about you? We haven't really heard from you.
I think I'm good. I think Nicholas asked my question for me, so I'm good.
Yeah, well, I know all of you that I know at all. I know a few of you here who are my students are amazingly multifaceted, and that's kind of the hardest thing about this, is trying to squeeze yourself into the shoebox of a profile. So it's imperfect, but there it is. Megan, anything? Nope. Alexandre, est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose?
Oui,
Salut.
salut. Est-ce que je vais poser ma question en français, tu répondras en anglais, d'accord?
Absolument.
Tu parlais plutôt là, de gens que tu as rencontrés sur LinkedIn. Je veux juste savoir à quoi ça menait, qu'est-ce que tu leur as écrit, j'ai compris que tu leur as écrit, ou ils t'ont écrit, je ne sais pas, un des deux, et à quoi ça menait ensuite?
So great question. So how does it develop? And the answer is that what you're looking for, everyone knows the term informational interview. Has everybody heard this term before?
Can you define it quickly?
Yeah,
Professor
I'd be happy
Paris?
to. Yeah. So an interview in the traditional sense is the job interview. An informational interview is no job is on the table. What you're there to do, it's asked by usually a person of lesser experience, of a person of greater experience, to learn more about the profession, to learn more about the person, or to learn more about their work, or all of those. So this is the kind of thing, and I did these, for example, back in when dinosaurs were still walking the earth. I wanted to be an architect, or thought I did, and I thought, well, I better talk to some architects. This is before LinkedIn existed, but basically what I did was I got my network together and said, who knows some architects? took a couple of half an hour meetings, basically out to coffee with some architects, and said, what is your day like? What does an architect do? How hard was it to become an architect? So I had my, I did my homework. I had my list of questions. I knew who they were. I noticed that your firm has done X. What projects have you worked on? How did you like working on? It's like that kind of thing. And what that ends up doing is giving you quite a bit of information about the profession. In these cases, when you have a shared passion, so again, Chemere, is okay if I keep using you as an example, like if you met somebody in music? Yeah, so you might say, tell me more about how this thing got started. How did you start this amazing organization? When what keeps you going each day? Like, why do you get up each day and continue to do this nonprofit work for music for, sort of disadvantaged children in Canada? Like, why is that? Like, you're trying to get them, and then you get to say things like, that is so exciting. That's one of the reasons that I love music. Music makes me feel this way. And so what you're trying to do is establish the connection over the shared interest. It's really, if you think about it, it's just like, so Daniel, you're a writer. That seems to me, that's kind of what I'm going to guess. It's like if you were in a writing group with somebody and you guys start to talk about writing. Well, of course you're going to talk about writing. And of course you have that shared interest. It forms the basis for a conversation, which can then build into something like a friendship. Or if the person is 20 years older than you, into a mentorship. But it begins with that first conversation. And that's all that we're looking for here. The entire goal is to get to 1/2 hour of a person's time and have a conversation and see how it goes.
Et si je peux reposer ma question, donc
Oui.
avec les exemples que tu donnais tantôt,
Oui.
Megan ou Stéphane, si j'ai bien compris, tu les as rencontrés via LinkedIn?
Oui, Megan, j'ai rencontré sur LinkedIn. Alors, c'était juste, j'ai remarqué qu'elle cherchait quelque chose sur... elle a posté, elle a mis quelque chose sur LinkedIn parce qu'elle travaille sur un programme qui s'appelle Humanities Plus, which is a program at Concordia that helps humanities students get a few professional skills and then an internship. Alors, moi, je m'intéresse, yeah, Megan, it's very cool. You would have really, they don't have it at McGill, which is kind of embarrassing. But ça m'intéresse beaucoup. Alors, j'ai répondu avec un commentaire sur le post. Voilà, c'est très intéressant. Et puis, on a échangé juste 1 ou 2 messages. Et puis, j'ai offert une connexion. Elle a pris half an hour conversation. And actually, we had such a great conversation. It went for an hour. And then she came over, she had beers at my house a week later and my wife met her and like she's a friend now. Like that's how good it was.
OK, donc ça peut mener à prendre une bière avec quelqu'un, c'est ça?
Certainement. Normalement, sans le COVID, sans la pandémie, normalement, ça se prend avec un café, oui, une demi-heure avec un café, ça c'est beaucoup plus convivial. Et puis, le deuxième rencontre, s'il y a vraiment une connexion, un rapport entre les deux, that's the beginning of a friendship, possibly.
Okay. Okay.
And that's what it is. You're looking for people who are that cool.
Okay.
And you do find them.
Est-ce que Stéphane aussi, tu l'as rencontré en personne depuis ou ça a toujours été via...
Avec Stéphane, j'ai connu avant on a fait la connexion en LinkedIn, mais James, c'était aussi sur LinkedIn, mais lui, il était à San Francisco, je crois. Alors, c'est ça possible d'avoir une connexion face à face.
Okay.
But Christine, c'est aussi sur LinkedIn, and we're going to have our 3rd meeting next week.
Okay.
So we're friends. Like it's becoming like we're friends, even though she's in New York and I'm here in Montreal.
Okay.
And she's just awesome, like smart and fun and tough-minded. Like many of the things that I like having in somebody as a thinking partner. She's just great. So we're about at time here. So I'm going to stop the recording. And just ask for one last thing, which is I'm not asking for any I'm not getting paid for this. So the one thing that I would ask in exchange is if you found this valuable, I'm going to send out a questionnaire. And if you would just take a few minutes to fill it out and give me your feedback, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm going to stay on, and you're welcome to stay on as long as you would like. So let's see here.